Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Super Journey News podcast as seen on the Pink City Twitch channel. What an episode! Hello again. How did everyone like that? That was some good shit. Some good shit. Bit of a long one, but I think I can also like speak for all of us and say that the Mogo guy is so sick. I love just frogs in general are sick and like cool and cute, and like having a full planet full of them and like their culture and stuff.
It's funny to think of where it all started with like the first interaction of Belmont saw. I just introduced this. I didn't even have this character made. I just introduced him as a frog man, and then
Racist.
Zappy was like, "Oh, I'm going to talk to that guy," and I was like, shit." Okay.
Yeah. That was like early Bojaz. Yeah, I think that was truly the first time a frog was introduced in this universe in season 1, and we just went from there and made a whole planet full of them. Which, like in D&D, obviously, which like the races and stuff are a big part of like the inspiration for this universe. There's like the Grung, which are like frog people. So they would have existed in some capacity, but yeah, they serve such an important part of this world, which I love. Yeah, the frogs are great. The frogs are really dope. But yeah. So just a little housekeeping. Unfortunately, Sappy could not be with us today because he's dog sitting. But he's been in the chat a little bit. But hopefully he can join us again next week. Which is too bad. Yeah, there was some cool Mikey moments I would love to talk about, but we can get into that another time. And also, just want to shout out once again to our sponsors, Retrograde Minis, who provided like a lot of the tokens that we made in this combat. Were made via their service, the website Retrograde Minis. They were kind enough to give us a legendary subscription to their site, and so that is what made those really dope tokens. And then of course Misty Mountain Gaming, Super 15, use that code for 15% off. There's those dice, and look at our channels for like that amazing little ad video skit that we threw together. Yes, what an episode. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the beginning of the episode, where like the setup for like all the Bogogo stuff and like what you guys wanted to do. What I think this is more a question for D-Fran, but like what was the intention behind the merchant approach? Like making yourself up to be this rich merchant, because like you do like the Bogo Gogo were like under siege. I just in my mind I'm like a merchant just showing up out of nowhere while the planet is like in war to be like, oh, buy my goods. It just like did not make sense to me.
No, like what I thought was happening was I thought we were going to talk to Joseph Bezos. That's why I was dressing up as a Bogo merchant. Because I thought we were going to talk to him, and there was going to be like a moment where with Sappy and Joseph. I had no idea we were going to Akuma Matata.
Yeah, no, I don't think it would have made sense. Yeah, I don't think it would have made sense to go and like get an audience with like
that's the way
a big bat of conjure. That's hilarious. Yeah,
but it just comes down when I make these mistakes. It comes down to Bugaki just not making any sense sometimes, like poor decision making.
Yeah, and like if more than anything, lack of experience, I think. But like it was fun. It worked out because it worked out in a really funny way, and like you showed up as like a fake Bogogo merchant to the two guards, and they're just like, this is clearly like stupid. Like,
first, then it became like now I'm like, I don't know, I'm under disguise because I don't want to be seen.
Which also makes sense. So, yeah. It also makes
sense. I feel like we started off the campaign with you just like being yourself in public, and then we were just like, oh shit, like we need disguises. Yeah. So like we're always in a different disguise now.
Yeah, no, disguises were cool. It was just funny the approach to like go through all those underground tunnels and be like, I'm a merchant.
I thought of that on the spot.
Yeah.
And like,
but
I was just going for like just passing off as a regular Bogogo.
Yeah, no, for sure. I understand that the intention there. Yeah, it's just funny because like truly in this scenario, Bugaki showing up actually like just as himself would have been the easiest ticket to get to the game, which is so funny. In this like one instance,
yeah, Joseph wouldn't have known that he wasn't an actual Bogogo. So that makes sense.
Yeah, but that obviously contributes to all of the many hilarious Bugaki moments. But this episode obviously, so I've only been playing tabletop RPGs for a couple years, but I've always wanted to do like a Seven Samurai episode, and like I feel like a lot of like sci-fi that I love, like Star Wars and like even Firefly, like a lot of it has like that Western or like that like old Kurosawa influence, and so I always wanted to do like whether it was D&D or this, I always wanted to do like a Seven Samurai episode where like the group goes to like a village or whatever and then defends it from like invaders or bandits or whatever. And it just worked out because I think like thinking about like the low tech culture of like Bogogo and like how they're kind of like, like they don't have like, a huge crazy army. I mean, their army was like decimated recently. And then like they don't have much technology or many mechs even. Just worked perfectly with like the peasants, like quote unquote peasants and farmers, like versus like the high tech Chondria, unstoppable fleet, and then you guys kind of helping them. I always wanted to do an episode like that, and then the Bogogo made sense. So I'm glad it worked out. And then I had to throw in Toshiro Kitsune. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did capture it. It should have been a longer fight, but we were going into like
it was like it was like a 3 episode, but like we were like recording for like nearly 4 hours. There's always tech issues. We take breaks. So it would have been cool to do like more waves. But narrating it was fine. At least we got
like tower defense.
It would have been cool to do something like that, but something we could maybe do later.
That's exactly what I was thinking the whole time was tower defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the whole setup with like the traps and all that stuff. Like it would have been nice to like play into the actual combat more, but they like barely moved up before you guys took them out. So. In an ideal scenario, like there would have been a longer. I mean, the combat's already long, but like a more stuff happening in the combat. I mean, we got the moments, so we got the narrative moments that we needed. So it worked out at the end of the day. But speaking of Toshiro Kitsune, he is someone that you guys saw briefly in the second episode. And when I introduced him in the second episode, I like fully thought you guys would talk to him. Like he was like a character that I was like, oh, like such a cool idea for a character.
Too intimidating.
He was very intimidating. Yeah, he was like legendary bounty hunter, like renowned as like one of the most deadly in the galaxy. And then you guys didn't talk to him at all. So I was like, okay, he's just like in passing. And then so when this episode happened, I was like, oh, well, it's like Seven Samurai inspired, and like Bogogo doesn't have like an active army right now because of what happened at Hanu. So he would hire like the best person he could find, and I was like, it just makes sense, and it would be cool to throw in Toshiro in there. So that is why he's in this episode. And shout out to Defense for the sick art.
Yeah,
very cool character.
Even the Joseph Faisals era is really good too. I didn't.
Oh yeah. So sick.
I didn't expect it, but I was like, that's actually perfect. Like the wolf, like this guy looks like a fucking wolf.
Sick.
When I think of a Bogogo, I think of Slippy the Toad from Star Fox.
Yes.
So when the thing I imagine is just like when they're like screaming, it's like all panic. Like
the Bogogo obviously were inspired by like growing from D&D. Any humanoid like or even non-humanoid like frog characters. What's the word? Anthropomorphic frogs. That's the word, right? Anthropomorphic frogs. We love our cool frogs.
And like one of my based it on Frog from
Well, I was gonna say one of my favorite characters ever in like video games is Frog from Chrono Trigger. And I've cosplayed it before. So like that's like like that like style of like cool frog character is my jam. So when I'm picturing like Gujobi Bongsas or Gorgi Bubukuchipis, I'm picturing like Frog from Chrono Trigger type. But I do love the frogs. And I'm glad we can incorporate them into this universe in this way. But speaking of frogs and being like besties with the bugs, Bugaki has so much cool character development in this episode.
He always be slipping his shit in.
Yeah. I think it's because
talking his shit.
It's because he talks the most shit, and he has the most to come from, which is why he has the most to grow.
Yeah, because that's actually interesting. Because there was a point where I was gonna fully play Bugaki like a negative character arc, like he just gets worse.
Yeah, really? Oh,
and then like he just like dies in the end, kind of like Scarface.
Interesting. I mean, it's not too late.
No, I think it was actually around this episode where I was like, I don't like Bugaki anymore, and I didn't want to play it. I didn't want to play a character that I didn't like. So
interesting.
You're planning for his demise, and you just grew.
It's interesting because even in the chat,
just growing his character better.
Wow.
Yeah, no, even in the chat, D-Friend was like, Bukaki's so mean in this episode, like toward the beginning.
It was getting worse.
Yeah.
And I think this was the episode where Bugaki turned around, literally.
Yeah.
From what happened. And also when Mikey opened up, then Bugaki was like, man, I think like even watching this episode, I was like, man, why didn't Bugaki just kind of like shunned Mikey and just started talking about his own problems?
It's like, Amy, what were you saying about Bugaki?
See, what you're gonna do now is you're gonna have since now the fans and viewers know that you try to kill him off, they're gonna keep him alive.
Yeah.
Now you can get rid of him. Now
it's cool that this was the.
We don't know. I mean,
yeah,
anything can still happen. He could still die. He could still.
Well, it makes sense because especially with last episode, you saw like his flashbacks, right? You saw like a lot of his backstory, like what he did to like make him so guilty, like all that stuff. So like, and like the flashback of his dad and stuff. So like him feeling really bad and wanting to help the Bugo in this episode, like makes sense. And then and then he's like kind of mean at the beginning. You're like, oh man, Bugaki's like, old, like classical Bugaki. And then once he gets to the fucking throne room and then apologizes, for me that was the moment I was like, damn, Bugaki apologizing is like huge for him.
Yeah.
But it's because everything he's gone through, right? Which I think is cool.
Yeah, it was just natural. Because also when I'm improvising, there's like a level of like, I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? So in the moment, you kind of like naturally create these things that it just happens.
It's easier to be bad than good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But especially in like D&D and stuff. Yeah.
But then like that like kind of almost like a fear of improv kind of creates the character. You know what I mean? And then it's like whatever naturally happens, that's what it happened. And
Yeah, Bugaki has a very cool arc, and like I feel like this starts something really cool for Bugaki, which as the show progresses ends up we don't even know where it is still, but it goes on a really cool path throughout his journey.
It's crazy during these talkbacks. Like I really appreciate so much more how much our characters grow and interact with each other and like figure out stuff like their own shit. And even because like when we record, it's like we're just like going along with the story, but it's like watching it again and then talking about like that person's like perspective from when they were doing it at the time is pretty crazy.
I think Defan or Sappy said it before early, but yeah, like when you guys are playing it, you're improvising, so like you don't even think about it. I mean, you do to an extent, but like you don't realize like what exactly is happening. But when you can pull out and like watch it all again and see the arc progress, like as a viewer,
I'm so focused on Whiskers and I'm focused on like taking the notes and stuff, and then but when we're doing this, it's like holy shit, like wow, it actually everything just makes so much sense.
It's cool.
Yeah, me too. I'm like too in the character, and then I don't even know what other people are saying.
Welcome to acting, guys.
Yeah, it's true. Right?
This is literally what I do.
Exactly.
I guess it's different for me because from a GM perspective, I am always like at that like pulled out, zoomed out view because I am trying to look at the overarching everything.
You're on that god
Yeah, that's why I always try to like have conversations with you guys outside of the recordings and be like, where are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking? Like, what do you want to do and stuff? And like, where you want to like take this character, like based on like whatever we just recorded and stuff. Just because like I need that like macro point of view so that I can like help guide and like massage the story a little bit. And I think that's what is helping create such a sick story for everyone. Which I love this show. Speaking of toad frogs and stuff, Gujobi bung sauce. I don't know if people caught this. I don't know if we even say it in the in this episode. We might reference it in like another time or something. But Gujobi bung sauce, the one that Bugaki saves inadvertently in the Hanu space battle. Me and Deef talked about this like way before this episode of that guy being a distant ancestor, Bojas Gidley from season 1. The first Bugogo that we ever meet. Which is just a little little Easter egg. And then also, to get references to season 1, big reference. The Katana of Shadows.
I know.
The katana that Toshio Kitsune was wielding, where the moonlight lit it up with the sigils and stuff. Like, obviously, that's a big part, And if you don't know what we're talking about, you should watch season 1. But that's the sword that Mike's character wields, and has been passed down through the ages. And I wanted to bring it in. Well, I was thinking about bringing it into this campaign at some point. But then obviously when we were doing like a 7 Samurai thing and then Toshio Kitsune was involved, I messaged Deefer and I was like, where was this sword like before our campaign? Like, where could it have been? And then we talked about it, and then like I kind of created like a path for like how it got here and there or whatever. But yeah, this is that same sword, which is really sick. And I think it is fitting to have like this fox god character wielding it for now.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So that's another little Easter egg.
Yeah. The connections between this episode and season 1 for me are like huge because like obviously it's the sword, but also like me leveling up my mech. It just so happened that the next level I would be getting the sword anyways. So everything just like clicked perfectly this episode.
So I was gonna talk about that. Yeah, the Terashima blade. Mike wanted to level up and get the Terashima blade anyways, and then like a couple weeks before he was like, yeah, like I want to get this Terashima blade. Is there any way we can incorporate it into the story? And that's kind of how I built this into the narrative a little bit. And I don't know if you noticed, I think this is probably the most prominent instance that we did this, but like every time characters like get upgrades or like get things added onto their mech, I try to incorporate some like story element to it, or like Augie says like he's got it from somewhere or something. Like I need a narrative way, because in Lancer like regular Lancer, your pilots are just like they have like infinite resources and they just can like equip whatever on, but like obviously in this story that we're building, like you guys are like scarce on resources, like you need to get your shit from somewhere. So I needed to find a way to give you the Terashima blade, and I think Mike, that's how you like called that this episode was going to happen. I predicted it because of I knew I was getting the blade somewhere around this episode, in some way, and then like we talked about it, and then Mike had a feeling that Toshio Kitsune would be involved.
It's cool because like the Lancer lore for Terashima Blade is really cool, but the way that the game is set up, it doesn't really like allow for you to create like a story behind it. I don't think, like I don't know the official Lancer books, but like there it's like a clan of people and they have like a ritualistic way of making these swords and stuff. So for us, we're just like, oh, like it makes sense that these are derived from the Katana of Shadows, and so that's how that, or
like made in like
they're derived from like they tried to copy that and then put it into like a mech scale.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, the Terashima was very sick. Sick. Another little like,
I really like that. I like that character a lot. The Toshido.
He's one of the like what I thought of like the name, and I was like, oh, like a fox samurai, like before we even started the campaign. I was like, this is a sick character concept. I loved it so much that if anyone watched, like I when I did that Thousand Arrows one shot with another group, which was like Thousand Arrows is like a Kurosawa based TTRPG. We decided that we wanted to be animals, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna be Toshiro Kitsune in that one shot. Like, I love this character so much that I brought him into another realm to play him a little bit as a player. And I think he's cool to exist wherever he can exist.
I have a feeling that you love him so much that this is a character you'll play for the rest of your life.
Oh, probably. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's so sick. Yeah, we all that be like reading stories to my grandchildren, like, once upon a time there was a fox samurai named Toshiro Kitsune.
You should. I was thinking that actually, like, you should play that for the next campaign. Like,
oh, that would be actually really sick. That would
Yeah.
be actually really sick.
That'd be
Yeah, his mech stats, his pilot stats that I've made on Lancer are actually really fun to play. It's with the Atlas, right?
Yeah, Atlas frame. Sick. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, that would be really sick. It's also because Toshiro Mifune is my favorite actor of all time, and then Kurosawa movies are so important to me.
Yeah.
That's just how this character was birthed. Another funny real world reference, which Amy wouldn't understand at all because this is so Canadian of me. But in like social studies or history, whatever the fuck that we learned in high school,
Rocky and Bullwinkle, try it.
In Canadian history, we learned. Do you ever know the Battle of Vimy Ridge?
Yeah.
The Battle of Vimy.
Where it's like a big Canadian victory, one of the few victories that we had that were
You
notable.
guys won Civil Wars or something?
No, it was
I
in
think we
like
won
World
against
War
you guys,
II. No,
right?
I don't know what the fuck it was. Was it? I don't know. It was something. But the Battle of Vimy Ridge, there was a tactic called the Vimy Wave, which like it was just like a military tactic that is what caused the victory. And so the Condrian Wave was like not like directly like military wise inspired by, but the name and the idea of like a wave of like the shielded people being there, setting up a shield, and then the bombarders like moving up slowly. And then when they reach the end of the shield people move up. And then that kind of like step-by-step wave was inspired by the Vimy Wave. And that's some Canadian history for you, baby.
It was against the Germans.
The Germans, yeah, it was World War II, I thought, yeah.
See,
Yeah.
it ain't us.
No, it was First World War.
Yeah, I was like, why would we be
First
fighting
World War.
them?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a history guy. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, just a silly like real world reference in there.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, obviously Mikey's not here to talk about the big Mikey moment, but obviously huge moment in the story of Mikey revealing himself, revealing that he's alive to his sibling.
Huge. Yeah.
Which obviously is going to set up a whole bunch of events and consequences for the future episodes. But that is truly a big moment. That we could talk about it when we get more into it with Mikey.
From my perspective and Whisker's perspective, I was like, "Whoa! Both of these guys just revealed themselves. Like, what is it? Where's this campaign going now?"
Yeah. It was out of desperation, but also like I think on Bugaki and Mikey's part, a little bit of hubris because like they're especially with their talk with each other, like of like getting that revenge, of like really seeking out that vengeance arc. And as soon as Joseph was being a fucking shithead, like both of them could not help but say something. And I was like, do you show your camera? Or like, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, oh shit. All right, here we go. Not subtle at all, which, obviously leads to consequences in the future, but great consequences from a story perspective.
Yes.
See, that's the thing though, is like, imagine Mikey and Bugaki didn't do that.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
I know.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that good of an episode.
No, absolutely. No, it's huge.
And the fact that they did that is so true to their character.
Yes.
Like what you're saying, like the hubris, like,
Yeah, it's a
Look
little
at
hubris,
me.
but also I think for Mikey in particular, it's like a moment he's been waiting for years. And like even at the beginning, he was like, I'm not gonna talk to Joseph. I was like, damn, the restraint on this man. And then finally, when like we needed a distraction or Bugaki needed some time to like locate him and stuff, like that's when he pulled out the big guns. And I was hoping that would happen this episode. first time fighting Contra, first time facing one of Mikey's siblings. So I'm glad it actually you actually got to interact with him, which is good.
And also that was like a big moment where, for Mikey, he straight up like defeated Joseph.
Oh yeah,
for the first time, and like that's like for Mikey, the feeling of satisfaction is like, yeah, that's right, you stupid.
Yeah. The confidence and the small victory is nice, but the battle against Kadria is only just beginning.
Yeah, this episode set off a chain reaction.
It does set off a chain, which I feel like every episode sets off its own little chain reaction that they all like collide and uncollide throughout the story, right?
Yes.
Like little things that are consequences of things that you've done earlier end up showing later on. Like it's a whole thing, like, and that's like a pacing thing that I'm trying to like balance, because like everyone's got their own story arcs, and then we have guests coming up later. So it's a lot to tie together.
Chris reminds us with the Omni Radio at the beginning of the episodes, kind of reviewing what we've done and who knows what we've done. And who's after us.
Yeah, it's hard because like it depends on the GM, but some GMs like will actually do like, meanwhile elsewhere a scene is playing out, and then like narrate something that the players wouldn't see. And I don't like doing that, because I feel like it's the player's story, and like you guys shouldn't witness or see or hear about things that you aren't actually experiencing or actually hearing about as a character. Some GMs do that, which is fine. Like for a story, it's like that's more like cinematic, like a show or something. But like I always want it to be from your POV, and it's like, how do I translate all this like world info and shit that's happening in the greater scheme of things without like literally just like exposition. But sometimes I just literally have to do exposition, and like that's where the radio shit comes in, where it's like the fleets are moving this way, or like the new union is doing this now, just to like give you a sense of like the scope of the universe and like what is happening beyond what you guys are doing.
I love how you do that, because that it shows like it makes it feel more real, like you feel the world. You feel the world outside, like there's a radio going on. Talking.
Yeah.
It's like some Fallout Shelter shit.
Yeah. It's like when you're in video games and then you like just pass by a radio and it like tells
like
you a bunch of stuff about the world.
And also makes the villains more real too, like Macaroni,
when they
Bucket Macaroni.
And it gives me a chance to one, do more silly voices, and then two, like bring like other characters in more to a degree where like your characters can like like in real life, like you see the president in the news, you see like this famous person in the news talking about shit, like you would know of these people and hear them say things like anyone would in real life. So why wouldn't you in this TTRPG campaign? So that's why I do that. I know like it's like just a tool to for exposition or whatever, but it's fun. It's fun, especially some of the radio stuff is actually very fun, especially when I catch you guys off guard, being like, "Hey, you guys did this, and then this is the consequence in the real world."
Man, dude, the radio is always good. Like every time you're just like, "Oh," and then we look at the TV or the radio, and it's always like, "Oh shit!" Like some shit went down, and now we have to find out what we did.
So a final moment. I mean, obviously, Mike, you have a really cool moment with the Terashima blade and your sensei, Toshio Kitsune. But another, going back to Bugaki again, another really nice moment that I didn't even realize like while playing that it would, come out so nice. It was like in my notes, it was just like Akuma thanks you guys for like saving them. But then like realizing like with Bugaki's back, like flashback last episode, and like his relationship with the Bogogogo, like Akuma telling Bugaki that his father would be proud, and like watching that again, I was like, damn, like I think that's a really special emotional moment for Bugaki. At least like it felt like that for me when I was like watching it.
No, definitely. it was the first time Bugaki's ever heard something like that.
Yeah.
So for Bugaki, that was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because the whole time he's talking like, I'm not as good as my father.
Exactly, right? Like right after the flashback where like it's fresh in your mind and you're like, you want to live up to him, and then finally you save your dad's longtime ally, and it's just like you did something that is worth being proud of, and I think that's really special. Bugaki.
Well, it's probably the first time that he has done something that was special and not like just for himself, and you know, to prove himself in some way. Because even before this whole war happened, like, you know, he's just this entitled guy with an army. He can just do whatever the hell he wants, and then finally now it's like he's earning it himself.
Yeah.
We love to see character growth.
I know Bugaki's character is just so
well, everyone has their own little arc. Like obviously, Bugaki has
every character. I think
even Mikey has some like big stuff coming up. Like once, like now that like shit's out on the table.
I love the characters.
Same.
Dynamic between the characters.
Yeah,
it's like everybody's part of that dynamic. You know what I mean?
100%. And that's why like these talkbacks can make me appreciate it, because like I'm not thinking about what you're thinking about while we're recording, but like I am now.
And even for me, it's like nice to hear your perspective, because the campaign is still going on. Like we're recording tomorrow. So hearing like your thoughts now after seeing this stuff like also helps inform like, you know, where you guys are coming from, so that I can like, you know.
Well, yeah, it's also good. I appreciate seeing them back so much, because it's also like seeing it now. I'm like working on the development of the character, and then I'm like more aware of all the things where Bugaki's fucking up, but I'm too in the moment to like, or like, you know, paranoid about improv to even realize it. And then now I'm like, oh damn, like, you know, like so many things are being clear to me about what Bugaki has been doing all the time, like deeper levels of the character that I'm not aware of.
It's cool.
And then that creates to further character development in the current, like, you know.
Yeah, it's like in real life when you remember stories or you look at photos of like your past self and be like, oh, like I fucked up there. And look at me now, how much I've grown. It's literally the same like feeling, right?
Exactly.
Because you are the character essentially, right? So it is cool. It is cool to like have these airing parallel to us filming. Like filming everything and then releasing it, I think would have been a different experience. Because even it's reminding me as a GM, like bringing back old characters from earlier episodes too. It reminds me of that too. There's a lot to juggle. So awesome episode. Things only, I keep saying this, but shit only gets crazier and crazier. So this is a nice one.
The next episode, I'm pretty sure is a really crazy episode.
Yeah. You guys leaving Wagogo? That one. This one's good too. Yeah, I mean they're all fucking sick. They all have their own special thing. So we will be back next week with the next episode. Thank you all for joining us and getting there in the chat. We will see you guys. And obviously the new episode has dropped. So go watch it again. All right.
Bye.
See you guys next time. And what was it? Over and out.
Bye. See you in space.
See you in space.
See you in space.